Good Monday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for October the 9th. Today we are reading First Chronicles chapters 2 and 3. First Chronicles chapter 2 and 3, which is going to begin with the sons of Israel and is going to conclude by looking at the descendants of David all the way through the return from the exile. So in yesterday's reading, as we were looking at the genealogy from Adam to the chiefs of Edom, which were the descendants of Esau. We covered, I don't know, about 30-ish chapters, I guess, of Genesis, that time frame, Genesis 1 through 30. Well, now we're going to begin to focus on the sons of Israel and the lineage of David that comes from that. So we're beginning about Genesis 31. And again, this is a roundabout approximate. We're about Genesis 31. And this chapter is going to carry us through about 2 Samuel 2. And then chapter 3 is going to be about 2 Samuel chapter 3 through the return of the exile, which we haven't gotten to yet in our reading, which is Ezra and Nehemiah. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get the text up on here, and we'll get to watch me try to pronounce these ancient Semitic names. No, it's a joy for everybody to get to watch that. All right, so let's see here. First Chronicles chapter 2 and verse number 1. These were Israel's sons: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Dan, Joseph, Benjamin, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. Judah's sons, Onan, and Shelah. These three were born to him by Bathshua, the Canaanite woman. Judah's firstborn, was evil in Yahweh's sight, so he put him to death. Judah's daughter-in-law, Tamar, bore Perez and Zerah to him. Judah had 5 sons in all. Perez's sons, Hezron and Hamul. Zerah's sons, Zimri, Ethan, Heman, Kalkol, and Dara, 5 in all. Carmi's sons, Akar, who brought trouble on Israel when he was unfaithful by taking the thing set apart for destruction, or also this variation, this would be Achan. Verse number 8, Ethan's sons, Azariah. Hezron's sons, who were born to him, Jerahmeel, Ram, and Chelubai. Ram fathered Aminadab, and Aminadab fathered Nahshon, a leader of Judah's descendants. Nahshon fathered Salma, and Salma fathered Boaz. Boaz fathered Obed, and Obed fathered Jesse. Jesse fathered Eliab, his firstborn. Abinadab was born second, Shemaiah third, Nethanel fourth, fourth, Redai fifth, Ozim sixth, and David seventh. Their sisters were Zeruiah and Abigail. Zeruiah's 3 sons, Abishai, Joab, and Asahel. Amasa's mother was Abigail, and his father was Jether the Ishmaelite. Caleb, son of Hezron, had children by his wife Azubah and by Jerioth. These were Azubah's sons, Jasher, Shobab, and Ardon. When Azubah died, Caleb married Ephrath, and she bore her to him. Her father married Uri, and Uri fathered Bezalel. After this, Hezron slept with the daughter of Machir, the father of Gilead. Hezron had married her when he was 60 years old, and she bore Segub to him. Segub fathered Jair, who possessed 23 towns in the land of Gilead. But Gesher and Aram captured Jair's villages, along with Kenath and its surrounding villages, 60 towns. All of these were the descendants of Machir, father of Gilead. After Hezron's death in Caleb Ephrathah, his wife Abijah bore Asher to him. He was the father of Tekoa. The sons of Jerahmeel, Hezron's firstborn, Ram, his firstborn, Bunah, Orim, Ozim, and Ahijah. Jerahmeel had another wife named Atara, who was the mother of Onam. The sons of Ram, Jerahmeel's firstborn, Maaz, Jamin, and Eker. Onam's sons, Shammai and Jada. Shammai's sons, Nadab and Abishur. Abishur's wife was named Abihail, who bore Aban and Molid to him. Nadab's sons, Seled and Apaim. Salel died without children. Apaim's sons, Ishi. Ishi's sons, Sheshan. Sheshan's sons, Alai. The sons of Jada, brother of Shimei, Jather, and Jonathan. Jather died without children. Jonathan's sons, Peleth and Zaza, were the descendants of Jeremiel. Sheshan had no sons, only daughters, but he did have an Egyptian servant whose name was Jara. Sheshan gave his daughter in marriage to his servant Jara, and she bore Attai to him. Attai fathered Nathan, and Nathan fathered Zabad. Zabad fathered Ephlal, and Ephlal fathered Obed. Obed fathered Jehu, and Jehu fathered Azariah. Azariah fathered Helez, and Helez fathered Elisah. Elisah fathered Sismai, and Sismai fathered Shalom. Shalom fathered Jechamiah, and Jechamiah fathered Elishama. The sons of Caleb, brother of Jeremiel, Mesha, his firstborn, fathered Zeph, and Marashah. His second fathered Hebron. Hebron's sons, Korah, Tapua, Rakim, and Shema. Shema fathered Raham, who fathered Jorkaim, and Rakim fathered Shemai. Shemai's son was Maon, and Maon fathered Beth Azur. Caleb's concubine, Ephah, was the mother of Hara, Moza, and Gazez. Haran fathered Gazez. Jadai's sons, Regim, Jotham, Geshan, Pelet, Ephah, and Sha'af. Caleb's concubine Ma'akah was the mother of Shaber and Turhana. She was also the mother of Sha'af, Madmana's father, and of Sheva, the father of Machbenah and Gibeah. Caleb's daughter was Aksa. These were Caleb's descendants, the sons of Hur, Ephrathah's firstborn. Shobal fathered Kiriath Jearim. Salma fathered Bethlehem, and Hareth fathered Beth Gader. These were the descendants of Shobal, the father of Kiriath Jearim. Haroe, half of the Manahathites, and the families of Kiriath Jearim, the Etherites, Puthites, Shumathites, and Mishrites. The Zorathites and Eshtrolites descended from these. Salma's descendants, Bethlehem, the Netophathites, Ethro Beth Joab, and half of the Manahathites, and the Zorites, and the families of the scribes who lived in Jabez, the Terathites, Shemaathites, and Sukkothites. These are the Kenites who came from Hamath, the father of Rechab's family. Chapter 3, these were David's sons who were born to him in Hebron. So now we're focusing back on David, obviously. Ammon was the firstborn by Ahinoam of Jezreel. Daniel was born second by Abigail of Carmel. Absalom, son of Maacah, daughter of King Tamai of Geshur, was third. Adonijah, son of Haggith, was fourth. Shephatiah by Abital was fifth. Ithraim by David's wife Eglah was sixth. 6 sons were born to David in Hebron, where he reigned 7 years and 6 months, and he reigned in Jerusalem 33 years. These sons were born to him in Jerusalem: Shemaiah, Shobab, Nathan, and Solomon. These 4 were born to him by Bathshua, daughter of Amiel. David's other sons, Ibhar, Elishua, Ephelet, Nogah, Nepheg, Japhia, Elishama, Eliada, and Eliphelet, 9 sons. These were all David's sons with their sister Tamar, in addition to the sons by his concubines. Solomon's son was Rehoboam. Again, notice that son is very interesting. His son, remember, he's the only one mentioned. We noted that back in 2 Kings. His son was Abijah. His son was Asa. His son was Jehoshaphat. His son was Jehoram. His son was Ahaziah. His son Joash. His son Amaziah. His son Azariah. His son Jotham. His son Ahaz. His son Hezekiah. His son Manasseh. His son Ammon, and his son Josiah. Josiah's sons, Johanan was the firstborn, Jehoiakim second, Zedekiah third, and Shallum fourth. Jehoiakim's sons, his sons Jeconiah and Zedekiah. The sons of Jeconiah, the captive, his sons Shealtiel, Melcharim, Pedadiah, Shenazar, Jechemiah, Hoshama, and Nedabiah. Pedaiah's sons Zerubbabel and Shimei. Zerubbabel's sons Meshullam and Hananiah, with their sister Shelomith, and 5 others: Hashaba, Ohel, Berechiah, Hasadiah, and Jeshab Hesed. Hananiah's descendants: Pelatiah, Jeshiah, and the sons of Rephiah: Arnon, Obadiah, and Shechaniah. The son of Shechaniah, Shemaiah. Shemaiah's sons: Hattush, Igal, Bariah, Neriah, and Shaphat. 6. Neriah's sons: Elionai, Hizkiah, and Azrikam. 3. Elionai's sons: Hobadiah, Elishib, Peliah, Akub, Johanan, Deliah, and Ani. 7. I think that's it. Yep, they're the end of Second Kings chapter, or excuse me, First Chronicles. We're in First Chronicles now. First Chronicles chapter 2, chapters 2 and 3. Again, chapter 2 covers basically the time frame of what we see in Genesis 31 all the way through 2 Samuel chapter 2. And what I did, you guys know I do my Bible marking. There's really not a ton here to mark that really is going to make much stand out. So what I'm focusing on is just tracing the lineage from Adam to Christ. And I really think that's a big portion of why this text is given to us, just to continue to show the lineage of David. Because remember, they're back in the promised land now. It seems that Israel has gone in exile and they're back in the promised land, and things still aren't great, but they're holding out hope for the promises of Yahweh that they will have at some point here in the near future. They will have the Messianic king coming onto the scene and restoring all things. So they're looking for that king. They know that he comes through David. So here is this text showing them how they've gotten to this point. So it goes from Israel to Judah, Judah to Perez, Perez to Hezron, Hezron to Ram, Ram to Nashon, Nashon, Salma, Salma, Boaz, Boaz, Obed, Obed, Jesse, Jesse to David. So that's how we get to David here in chapter 2. But then the rest of the text is focused on the 3 sons of Hezron that are mentioned first in verse 9, Jerahmeel, Ram, and Shilobai, who seems to have another name called Caleb. Caleb's descendants are 18 to 24. And then the last son of Hezron is mentioned in 25, I guess, through the rest of the chapter. But again, focusing on these descendants of Hezron, but the most important one, of course, being Ram, because it's through Ram's lineage that David comes on the scene. So once we get to chapter 3, then we now redirect. Once we get to Hezron, for whatever reason, the chronicler thought it necessary to take a step back and to look at all 3 of the sons of Hezron. He traces them, and then he narrows back in on Ram's lineage and begins with David. And he talks about David's sons that were born to him in Hezron. Remember that he stayed for 6.5 years in Hezron ruling before he went on to Jerusalem, where he ruled the remainder 33.5 years. Remember that David had a number of wives in Hebron, and he had all these sons named to him, or excuse me, all these sons given to him, and we have their names mentioned in 1 through 3. But just think about too that this is just giving us a genealogy. This is just showing us who fathered who. But what it doesn't tell you is a story behind all this. Think about everything that had to take place for David to even be able to have sons, for Yahweh to deliver him from the hand of Saul, Yahweh sending his servant Samuel to go and to anoint the head of David. There's just so much that goes into that. We get down into David's sons that are mentioned in let's see here. We need to figure out, actually I forgot to mark this one. Let's see. So he goes from David to Solomon, obviously, in verse number 5. Let's see, and then picks up Solomon in verse number 10. So we have the sons born to him at Hebron, 1 through 3. Then we have the sons born to him in Jerusalem, 5 through 9. Again, we're tracing, and I'm underlining from Seth all the way through, or excuse me, from Adam all the way through, with a purple pen, just so I can trace all of these people. So it goes from David to Solomon. Remember, the promise was given to David during his time as king, that he would always have descendants on the throne of David, or on the throne of Israel, on the throne of God's people. So if there's a throne, a descendant of David should be there. Remember, the only time we saw that not being the case is whenever Athaliah took over, and remember, Joash had to be hid. So we go from David to Solomon, and then from Solomon, Rehoboam, Abijah, Asa, Jehoshaphat, Jehoram, Ahaziah, and then Joash. Think about Joash. The lineage of David at Joash was almost completely wiped out. I think that was 2 Kings, I want to say 2 Kings 10, I think was the text where that almost happened. Let me see how close I am. Oh, close. 2 Kings 11. 2 Kings 11, the lineage of David is almost completely snuffed out, if not for the woman Jehosheba, who was King Jehoram's daughter, Ahaziah's sister. She was the wife of, let's see here, I wrote that down. She was wife, I think, of the, I can't remember who she was the wife of. Let's see. She's the wife of Jehoiada, I believe. She is the one who took Joash and his nurse and hid them away so that they wouldn't be killed. So eventually Joash comes into power, and then he fathers Amaziah, Azariah, Jotham, Ahaz, Hezekiah, Manasseh, Amon, Josiah, Jehoiakim, Jeconiah. Let's see, is that right? Yeah, Jehoiakim and the Jeconiah, and then Jeconiah to Bediah, and then Bediah ends up having all of his sons that end up coming back into the promised land. So it isn't just that, again, we read a genealogy, we get really bored, but it's good for us to remember all the things that took place behind the scenes for this to actually be a reality. And we might note too, beginning of verse 17, that there is no official king in Israel after the exile, post-exilic, whenever they get to come back into the promised land. But this simply shows us that the lineage continues. Remember, they're looking for the Messianic king, and they have to look for it through the line of David in order for God's promises to remain true. And that certainly is one of the reasons for the chronicler to write what he wrote, is to be able to trace that lineage and to show God's faithfulness to the promises that he had made, not just to David, but to Abraham, that through his seed, all the nations of the earth would be blessed. So I know the genealogies are kind of a bore to read through, kind of difficult to read through, but if we can just find something to latch onto and just trace these things, they're there for a purpose. And certainly the Jews that would have received this originally during the post-exilic days, I think they would have found much more value in it than us, a lot because they were much more familiar with these bloodlines. But for us, again, as long as we figure out the purpose, and the purpose seems to be tracing the lineage of the Messiah, starting with Adam, going through Abraham, going through Isaac and Israel and David, or Jesse and David and Solomon, so on and so forth. Again, just to show God's faithfulness to his promises. If you have any questions or comments about this genealogy or anything pertaining to what we've seen so far in Chronicles, please feel free to leave that in the comment section below. I appreciate you taking some time to read along with me these crazy names here on this Monday. Hope you have a great rest of your Monday, and we'll be back at it again tomorrow, reading chapters 4 and 5, which is going to trace Judah's descendants, Simeon's descendants, Reuben's descendants, Gad's descendants, and then the half tribe of Manasseh. We actually have a little bit of narrative within this text, so we might have a little bit of something to talk about then. Again, thanks for tuning in today. Have a great rest of your Monday, everybody. Take care, and God bless.